how the fuck do you come up with stuff on the spot, to entertain other people or to share some part of yourself? And that's this week's Jeskidding episode. The curse of creativity. And what are the good sides of being creative and what are the horrible sides of being creative? We're going to talk about them all. Let's go through the laundry list. This is the Jeskidding show, where sometimes I say things that I regret later and I was like, oh, I'm just kidding. And then other times I say things that maybe make you think and you go, oh, I was just kidding. Ding! A fucking light bulb went off or some shit. Blah, blah, blah. We're broadcast live on Twitch to a bunch of, malcontents, maybe prisoners in some prison with Wi-Fi. I don't know, because I can't see their faces. But that's kind of what the show is. It's wild, it's wacky, it's zany, and it has sometimes a guy named Redneck Rebel. Is that true, Redneck Rebel? Are you sometimes on the show?
Sometimes, for sure. You can catch me on a few episodes, maybe 3 or 4.
Fair enough. So today we're talking about the curse of creativity. What is it? So what is creativity, Redneck? What would you define creativity as?
I guess the ability to be unique, because being creative is typically, you come up with this unique way that maybe you handle situations or unique way that you approach, any kind of art, whatever that may be. I think being creative is just simply being unique in your own way.
Interesting. I would see creativity as maybe, I think uniqueness is a part of it, but I see creativity, if I had to define it, as like a form of expression, a form of letting out a part of you that may be a little insane. But that's a deeper part of that conversation. But like for me, it's about getting the crazy out. And maybe it's not as extreme for you. So for you, it's just you feel like creativity is like a moment-to-moment decision. Where do you think creativity is born? Like in the biological sense? Like, is there some sort of, you think, science behind creativity?
I would say for sure. I mean, there's probably definitely some science behind that.
When you don't have it, I just asked you, just make some shit up, bro. This is what we do here. This is being creative. If you don't have the fucking answer, just create some shit. This is what I want you to do all episode, okay? Can you fill this role? Because if not, I can creatively find somebody else who can. I'm just kidding, dude. I love you. Please stick around. Right? Don't go anywhere.
I'm getting kicked off this show.
No, you're not getting kicked off. You'll be invited right back. I ain't got nobody else. I'm just creatively flowing with the fact that you don't have a quick answer for me. So I have to sort of riff off that. So that's what I do is I riff. And I think there's a lot of forms of creativity, right? For me, I use humor as creativity. I constantly am trying to create new ways to sort of look at something, challenge something, say something inappropriate that I regret. There's all kinds of ways that the creative spirit flows through me, and I've embraced a life of creativity. And I'm sort of suffering the consequences from it. Now, one of the reasons that you're on the show today and other people are invited too, I can bring you into the Discord so you can talk as well, is because you come from a life that maybe, I don't mean to judge it right away, but a little less creative in its maybe atmosphere, environment. Like you were a firefighter, right? You have a nice microphone. Speak up, man. You got a great mic. You sound amazing. You do sound amazing.
Well, I mean, I would say creativity is definitely more of your forte for sure because, I mean, it's basically your career. I mean, your Twitch, your filmmaking, things like that. I mean, all of those require some degree of creativity to be successful.
That's fair. But I've seen plenty of people be successful with very little creativity. So we'll talk about that too. There are people who climb the ladder of creative. Talk to fucking the guys like Brett Ratner. And if you're out there, Brett, and you hear this, you kind of did do some shitty things to women, and your movies kind of suck. So there, pop, pop, pop. You know what I'm saying? So, but there are people who climb up that ladder who don't have the talent, but they certainly have the creativity to manipulate the creative system and the financial side of it. But I would agree with you.
Different form of creativity.
Yeah, they do. They've got the swindle down pat, the art of the deal. Some people get elected president doing it. That kind of creativity, but that's different. So, right. So yes, I live more of a creative life, right? But that comes with consequences. And so me and you we're gonna yin and yang it. You're gonna be the yang in this situation. How do you feel about being the yang here? Are you okay with it?
I think that's a suitable position.
Okay, yang, and I don't mean it like in the Asian sense. You're just yang from now on. I'm gonna call you yang. Okay, yang, right? You are a firefighter, right? Now I guess like in the firefighting, there's got to be like somebody's trapped in a building and you got to get them down. You got to, I guess, is problem solving creativity? Like where you put the ladder?
I think it's definitely a form of creativity because not every situation that you come up on is going to be the same. You know, like you can train and train and train for certain situations, but it's almost never exactly like how you train. So, you know, situations can be different. You know, a layout of a home or anything like that is going to cause you to have to immediately be creative in some form.
So like creative problem solving. That's what you're saying. So you feel like
Right.
maybe something in our biology, like, oh, that tiger. I always use the tiger in this example. I don't know why, because I'm uncreative when it comes to this metaphor. But the tiger is going to eat you in the jungle, right? And or eat your friend. And you got to be like, yo, but what if, and your brain has to say, what if that tiger's in the tree this time? I know we said we climb the trees and swing from branch to branch, but what if? And don't you think like that what if game, that game of imagination, is being creative so that the tiger doesn't eat you? Kind of like the same thing with the fucking ladder and the saving the person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you have to envision something that has not happened, right? So that you can avoid its consequences, potentially. Or do you think that's just logic?
I think that you could make an argument for both sides of that.
Right. Fair enough.
To be perfectly honest.
Thank you, Mr. Firefighter. Somebody from the chat room says they like my jacket. I'm not wearing a jacket, so I'm going to take that as a big compliment. No, it's actually a shirt. I'm wearing a shirt today, so those who are just listening to the podcast, it's a shirt that has like sort of like almost cowboyish imprints of a U.S. flag or some shit on it. The redneck that I'm talking to would be very proud of me if I didn't look like a complete hipster douchebag in the process of wearing the shirt. So back to the creative spirit. So in being creative, right, because you have creative outlets, right? What are your creative outlets?
I used to do like a little bit of like writing song lyrics and stuff. Like back when I was
Really?
way younger, I tried to do the whole playing an instrument, being a band thing as like a form of creativity.
Whoa.
Which is
What
like
instrument did you play? I didn't know this about you.
bass guitar.
Bass guitar. And what kind of group was it? Like, was it country? Was it like heavy metal?
It was heavy metal. Like I had a group of friends in high school. We were
Yes.
really into Metallica.
Into
Big time.
You had a Metallica inspired band where you played
Yes.
bass. I'm learning things about you that I had no idea. See, that's what happens when people who don't want to present themselves as creative, right, are given an opportunity. There's always something fucking there, hiding, lurking. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I collect, I don't know, Barbies that just have blue hats. And I like to dress them up as Kens. That's creative. It's not my thing, but it's creative.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's fine with me too. Whatever, you know.
You know what's the best about that? Was the fucking long pause and then the
Well, I just thought that was kind of that was very creative.
It was a creative
as
joke.
a matter of fact.
I spun that like a fucking record play beat, right, round, round, round. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm always trying to riff something into something. So, okay, you were telling me about your creative outlets, and then I will go to the chat room in a little bit as people say things and make faces at me, which I always love.
And I think just like music in general, I think is one of the most beautiful creative forms of expression.
So do you feel like I'm sorry, please.
I just think that like in music, like you can convey so much emotion. Like in some songs that people write, like you can feel what they're feeling when they wrote that, and I think that's like a really neat thing. Like they call music like the universal language because everybody understands it
and everybody feels it, right? So you feel like you're absorbing somebody else's and internalizing somebody else's expression, right? Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Great. So you benefit from other people's creativity, which is amazing. Most people do. Most people, even if they're like, oh, I'm not a creative person, logic. But then you find them at the fucking opera or in the movies, right? Like this and that. So, but for a lot of people, they don't have creative outlets, like zero. And then there are those who have them and they're totally afflicted and cursed by them. I'm one of those people. I'm fucking cursed. We're going to talk about the curse of creativity in a second, but I wanted to get a little more from you. So when you played music, right, first you were a firefighter, right? and then you are now going to school to be an IT professional, you know, but you're also a streamer who tries to entertain people online, much like yours truly, and you're also used to be a musician, and I'm sure there's other things in there that you're not telling me that you do that are creative other than your day-to-day. So how does it make you feel when you're doing something that's creative as opposed to the moment-by-moment thing that you normally do?
I think it gives like a sense of accomplishment, you know, because like I used to, like I said, I used to sit down and would write song lyrics, and I would base those off of like, you know, how was I feeling, and you know, like if I was going through something hard, it just felt good to just write something down, and it was like it was relieving and beautiful at the same time because like if you sit down and have someone read that, it's like, you know, like some of these things I used to write, like someone could read that and feel what I was feeling in that moment, and it's like,
Do you feel
I
like
don't know, it's like a stress relief even.
So you find it A, to be something that connects you to other people, right? B, a form of stress relief. For me, I put down in a piece, I usually write down my thoughts before these things. I find it to be a form of therapy for me. Like creativity is therapy for me because I feel like I have so much pent up ideas and stress about the world and what's happening to me just by pushing those thoughts out of my brain and sometimes, unfortunately, onto somebody else. You know, I feel like a release. I feel like this thing has been stored in me and building and building and building and building, and it just has to get out. And if I don't let out that thing, and sometimes it can come out in a very formless way, music or, you know, write a song or I edit a video or when I can be succinct about it, for me, it just gets this feeling that what was trapped in me is no longer trapped. And then in addition to that, I get this secondary feeling, which is somebody's responding to what I'm saying, and there's a connection between me and them. And that's a beautiful thing, and that's something I've strived for my entire life in like a lot of different mediums. But it comes at a price, right? So the negative side of creativity, we'll talk about the positive side of creativity. We've kind of covered this. We're doing like a fucking Wikipedia. But we're two dicks, so it's like with Dickopedia. But the positive side of I'm gonna pat myself on the back for that little pun, which I shouldn't because it wasn't that funny. But I'm insecure. That's a whole different episode of this thing. So
get it together, man.
Yeah, pull it. You got this. I'm hugging. Okay, I'm good. So creativity, right? The positive side for both of us, right? Even though you say that I'm more of a creative life person, because I've embraced it more of a career, doesn't mean that we're not exactly the same when it comes to creativity. I sort of pose that question to you. It just means that I'm all in. You know what I'm saying? We're at the casino. You're still gambling, but I'm all in. That's the only real difference, in my opinion, between us, because creativity really can sort of help you, help others, give insight back and forth. So those are the positive sides of creativity. There's negative sides, and I want to talk about the negative sides too. If you're not being able to be creative, like you're doing something without a creative outlet for long enough, and I've known many people like this. I'll talk about myself, I'll talk about you, I'll talk about the chat room, and I come from a family of creative people, which helps too. Do you feel stifled when you're not being creative for long enough? Redneck Rebel.
Stifled in what sort of way?
Well, do you feel like, I can only describe it for me, so I can't do that for you. So just feel free to cut
What's
in.
your perspective being stifled?
If I'm not being creative, I experience a high. So for me, it's like a drug, right? There's a high that I get from it. If I don't do enough creative things, I start to feel lost in the world. I start to feel like I have no actual contribution, which is very strange. Because if I was just like a bricklayer and I built buildings, there's the building. But I feel like there's something in me that's, I don't want to say more than that because it's not more. That's not a fair statement. But there's something in me that has an insight that's my thing to share. And that also makes me feel special. And I know everybody's special, but that's my special thing that I get to sort of, and I think the longer you do it and the more you do it, the better you get at sort of just tapping into your own brain and letting some of that angst out. So I get very creatively frustrated. But I get creatively frustrated even when I'm being creative all the time, because I think that people who tune into creativity, they have to sort of dig into themselves in a way that's very aggressive sometimes. That's one of the curses of creativity, is that you really have to pull from very deep and continuously try to one up and challenge yourself in a way that you might not do doing a regular thing. I mean, it's like you strive when you're a creative person, like, and I mean in the career sense, you're striving at such a level to outdo yourself all the time that it can make you fucking crazy. And if you look at like the great directors and other people who have sort of fallen off the wagon, and people could say people like, I'm not trying to be mean, but guys like George Lucas or Coppola or all these guys who made The Godfather or Star Wars, and then years later they make their next films and they're terrible. And you're like, how did that happen? How did you go from being the greatest cinematic mind or scientific or whatever, science fiction or Mozart of your time, to like a very nonsensical, mediocre talent?
It sounds like your stifle is coming more from a standpoint of like the struggle to continue to be creative.
Absolutely. And that's both in the practical sense, but in the financial sense, and we'll get to that in a second. There's a curse of creativity. What's wrong with it? And even when you're financially successful, this doesn't leave you, because you always feel that self-judging thing. You have a very strong self-judging thing that continuously pushes you. And when you lose that thing, you lose your edge. And when you lose your edge, you no longer want to dig too deep into yourself and re-challenge yourself, and you make that shitty movie or that shitty song. And you've seen bands go through it and everybody else, right? Where they were amazing and then they were just horrible. They had that really cool Metallica documentary, right? Where
actually, it was what I was just thinking.
Right, exactly. So the Metallica thing, and they had that documentary where they were going fucking crazy. And here's guys with millions of dollars in the bank. They have no worries, right? So financially, they're set, but they're going crazy creatively because they can't find that place where they can outdo their former selves. They can't do it.
And they constantly have that desire to continue to have the same standard of creativity that they've always had.
But at least they're creatively trying, right? They're trying to get to that dark place, which is that hard place inside yourself. How do I make something new in myself that I've never done before, that other people will like? Because that's the pressure too, right? When you have a successful thing, you start thinking, what do they want from me, as opposed to, what do I have to give? And then how do I marry that over and over and over and over again? What if I give them the wrong thing? So that's the curse of success and creativity. You know what I'm saying? Like if I get successful, right? Say I become the next big Twitch streamer. 46-year-old, maybe 47 at the time. Looks 30. Fucking thank you. But 46-year-old guy, right? Funny guy, insightful guy. People want to tune in. They see the animations on the screen. They like the big fucking character. Oh, the production value, blah, blah, blah. And then I start playing a certain game, or I start doing a certain thing. Then they want the same thing. How does the creative person thrive in that environment when what got them there was doing their own fucking thing and outdoing themselves and always being different? You know what I'm saying?
Because I think that creates, like, over time, it creates a certain standard that people expect. And if you're not meeting that, like, that can cause some...
But it's not a standard. That's what I'm telling you. It's what people want is the same thing usually that you first gave them. That's where the trouble happens. Half the people want the same thing. Half the people want something new. Half the people want the original Star Wars. Half the people want whatever those fucking prequels were. And then they got those and they were like, after 5 years, it was dog shit. No offense, George, but that's how I felt about it. So how do you maintain that level? This is the curse of creativity. Like if the place that you started out was pure and then alleviated stress, gave you something to look forward to in your day, gave you in therapy, because, creativity is like a form of fucking crazy. You're imagining and you're picturing shit that's not real. You're constantly bending the spoon in the Matrix sense. So then you get to the place you want to be, and then the pressure to be successful is fucking so intense, and then gets tied into your finances, and then you start to like say, fuck, how do I both please them and please the part of me that demands another higher standard? So then when people do it, it's like, holy shit, how the fuck did you repeat that? Like, look at The Matrix 1, right? If you've all seen it, it's an older movie at this point. But then The Matrix 2 and 3, dog shit. How does that happen? You know what I'm saying? And then you look at things where, like, I don't know, like, you take Alien and then you get Aliens or something. Or like Mozart. Or how do these guys keep hitting fucking home runs? Those are the people who are like, holy shit, this is amazing. So I think it's interesting. It's like, because but in the end of the day, somebody in the chat room, Danny, said they didn't hate The Matrix 2 and 3. Totally fair. But the pressure to make that next thing affects that creativity. So that's part of the curse of creativity, is once you're creative and you share it with the world, if it's accepted, is living up to those expectations. Second part is I'm going to talk about like how tiring it is. And how creative people burn themselves the fuck out.
I really enjoy that perspective, because like I wondered that myself, like the curse of creativity, and I think that's something that you experience a lot more than me, like somebody that would do it as a hobby and like some kind of form of stress relief in their free time. But like the curse of creativity in the career sense, I mean, there's definitely a lot to take in there. Like, so like I really enjoy that. Like you made that make a lot of sense.
Well, I'm glad.
Like how stressful that can be.
I'm happy to hear it. I mean, I'm going to put another layer on that and say, what happens when that creativity becomes your source of income? Or some of the craft that you've gotten, in my case, I'm an editor, I'm a filmmaker, is forced into roles that just want my craft but don't want my creativity. So the very craft that I've worked on for over 20 years and made, I think, some really great pieces of work over the years. Certainly people have told me that. It's been seen a lot, whatever the fuck, whatever, or I think it's good. Whatever quantifies that as a good piece of art or work, then somebody wants me to come in and edit their reality show, which there's nothing wrong with. But like that adds nothing to society. So everything that I've set out in my life to do as a creative person, I'm now being asked to now siphon from society. And that's creative death for me. But it's the only way that somebody like me can make money. Because this is another curse of creativity. New ideas from unknown people, hear me out on this, fail. And that's a hard thing to hear and accept. Because we all want to feel like we all want the new thing. And why do they fail? Well, the first thing people say is because they're not good enough. And that's the ultimate misconception. The reality is because it's not discoverable enough in our noisy culture. Because it's not familiar enough. And that people, audiences, don't want to do the work to seek out things that they love that are unique. Because that involves work on their side. They want something to be great, but familiar enough they can latch onto it without having to do the first bit of work to get it. Because there's too much noise. I used to work at a company that we had millions of hits and all that shit, and big movie stars that I worked with, and on my fucking resume. But I'd have interns there, and I'd say, hey, go find me something great on the internet. Because we want it for our channel, because we have a form of distribution, this and that. And after about 4 days, it was literally like I had them locked in a fucking padded room at a psych ward. Not because there wasn't great shit out there, but because the level of work it took for them to find that great thing, they might as well just go look for the thing as like, let me find somebody that said some bad things about something or some parody music video or something that's already referential. So the curse of the creative person is, how do I get my creative thing out there without having to make dog shit, but at the same time and be original and be discovered and pay the bills? So then we get into the financial side of being creative. And I'm not telling people out there, don't be creative. We're going to talk about that in a second. And I'm gonna go on about this a little bit, redneck, and forgive me for being long-winded. But
it's okay.
This is my life. I live this every fucking day.
Yeah.
So in the financial sense, once you tie your money to it, so it gets really tricky because you start feeling that pressure. You know, that pressure to not only make something great, but to sort of stand out, Um, and then it starts to make you question, and then self-doubt comes in, and self-doubt is the enemy of creativity. Self-doubt says, because as a creative person, you're already self-doubting, that's how you achieve the next level. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're already prejudging yourself. You're already trying to be a creative perfectionist. So when self-doubt starts to get a stronger voice because of something real, like, oh shit, the rent is due, man, it's like, how do you find the inner strength? This is the curse of creativity. To be creative, something that takes a very relaxed state of mind sometimes, when you feel tremendous pressure. That's tough. And so I have feeling that when people perform at a very top level, I'm like, man, they're like fucking superstars because they're under that pressure, but yet they're still doing it. But at least they don't have to worry about the amount of money they make. So I'm just going to take a 2-second break for the chat room and say, hey, chat room, we're talking about, and hello, Smokey and everybody else. We're talking about the curse of creativity today because I'm a professional filmmaker who sometimes makes zero money and then sometimes does okay, you know? But the curse of creativity and how hard it is to be a creative person and still continue to put out your best self and your best work in this world. Because the world, for the most part, it's like a double-edged sword, right? The world says, we want creative people. We want creative things, right? That's true, right? Everybody goes to the movies. Everybody listens to music, right? Everybody plays video games. People like to listen to other people talk. People like to sing. People like to paint. People like to see other people's paintings even if they don't paint. But most people would say to their children, oh, no. Don't go becoming a fucking rock band musician or an artist. It's not, because it will hurt you financially. Usually there's the first case. And in some cases, personally. My mother, who's a writer, the best, most talented person I've ever met. She's fucking amazing. Not only because she's my mother, because she's fucking amazing. And I respect her. She worries for me because she sees what this creative life does to me. You know, and then I've known many people famous and been famous, and then I helped become famous and then forgot about me. That's a whole other podcast. And even they're fucking unhappy because they were creative along the way and then the money hit. And you think that, so they have one advantage where they wake up every day and they get to do what they want a lot of days. Not always, a lot of days. I read a thing from a friend of mine recently who's very successful, and I wish him the best. He's like, I can't wait to go to sleep and wake up for the next morning because he has like a big thing. And part of me is like, not jealous, not the right word. I'm happy for him, but I wish I felt that way because that thing was waiting for me, as opposed to fuck, no money, struggle, stream that some people may or may not watch. You know what I'm saying? How do I find the courage in me to attack the world in an aggressive way when I don't have the means to do it? But then I think about him too, or her, and I say, fuck, but they get out there with all those expectations from other people, right? They have a massive fear of failure, because what if this thing isn't good enough? They're trapped by their own success because they can't just go do other things. So I can be more nimble, I can be more aggressive, and I can be more myself. I just don't have the options to do things with the resources that they do. So it's all a trade-off. It's all grass is greener. It's the curse of creativity, right? It's how do I put myself out there? And then there's the long tail. And then I'm going to hear from Red, and we're going to go to the chat room. But there's the long tail of this, where and I've talked to a lot of people, and this makes me feel better about my life. Whereas, like, done this for 25 years. Even though I look young, my fucking bones are falling off. No, they're not. I'm in good shape. But I have to crack jokes. It's just my thing. So, but the long tail is that you meet the accountant who's done it for 30 years or 20 years, and they've got a house. They've got they've bought artwork, whatever the fuck they've done with their money. They're secure or secure-ish, right? And part of them is miserable. It's crazy. They're miserable because they always wanted to write their great novel. I'm not joking. I knew a cancer doctor saw him save people's lives for 40 years. And all he could stress about is how nobody wanted to buy his book. 40 years. And he headed the Cancer Institute. And here I am looking at him be like, yo, I just make people fucking laugh. Or make them think. You fucking saved their lives. You have a life worth living. And so there's like a weird long tail jealousy that goes back and forth. And I think it's interesting and it's cool. Because like I feel like it validates some of my good and bad choices. You know what I'm saying? Like that I didn't waste my time. A good life is a life of, I've said this before, of striving or trying. You know what I mean? That's a good life. Having a hit record, this and that, that's the curse of the creative person too, is you always feel like you're not validated ever, even when you're very successful, but especially when you're at the bottom, because you feel like if I didn't get the big prize, I must have no value. I mean, we were joking the other night, Redneck, and you didn't mean anything by it, nor did I take it the wrong way, but I did say something back, and there's always a hint of truth in everything, right? You were laughing and joking, and you were like, oh, it's the world famous Jeskid. I'm not saying this to make you feel bad. I'm just giving you the perspective on sometimes the creative brain. So you're like, oh, I'm with the world, and it's like kind of like a joke. But it's a funny joke, and I laugh at it, but it's painful. Because there's a lot of, when you're a creative person, the curse of being creative is like, when you look at people who are more successful than you, but your craft is stronger than theirs, that you've put in more effort than they have, or at least you feel that you have, that you're more driven than they are, and they zigged and they zagged and they got what they wanted. And then some people who actually really, really deserve it, you look at them and you say like, that should have or could have been me. And in my case, many, many times over. We've talked about the television show that got stolen from me and the DNC copied my show. I've gone through this. And it's a hard pill as a creative person to swallow when you know that your overall limits to what you can do are being stifled by a society that doesn't want it or can't find it, or rules that are so fucked up. I mean, imagine being the world's best weightlifter. You're a weightlifter. And you can't, no matter how many times you go to the competition and you're better than everybody there, you never win even though you pick up the most weight. That's the curse of the creative, because it's a subjective field, because it's a field that attracts the worst kind of sick people. In the case of Harvey Weinstein, rapists. That's throughout the industry. So that you, as a pure person who just wants to help and express yourself, sometimes selfish, there are some selfish people, you go into an industry that just is evil, because it's filled with the idea of finance. This is what Metallica went through when you described it. And on the other side, you have those that just want the fame part of it. So the curse of creativity is you're surrounded by people who want attention, but don't always want to dig deep to express themselves. So I live this every day. So that's why I'm going on about it. You know what I'm saying? And then I'll go to the chat room in a second. But this is a hard, not just life, but internal struggle to be the best you can in a world that doesn't always notice or give a shit. And then still show up the next day and be the best you can. And now part of me is like, oh, you're just saying, well, woe was fucking me. And I know that there'd be a voice out there that's like, woe was you. You know, there's a mother taking care of 3 kids. You know what I'm saying? Who's like, you're just fucking sitting there talking in a microphone in a chat room. I'm taking care of 3 kids and I'm working at Walmart. Shut the fuck up. And I'm very conscious of those people. And I'm conscious of the privilege that I have somehow to still be able to do this. And that it's a fortunate life, even though I don't have the success that I feel like I could have. I don't like the word should anymore. That I could have. I certainly have the talent for it. But it's a hard pill to swallow when you know you have the goods and you have to bide your time because circumstance doesn't. And that's something that a non-creative person has trouble understanding because they just haven't gone through it, you know? And sometimes you get people like in the chat room, Smokey, he said, my dad told me not to act and to get a trade. But what if Smokey, which is the name of the chat room, what if everything about his being was to be an actor? Right? So I talk to people who are younger than me with all this creative stuff. And they're like, should I do this? Should I not? So listen, it's a very personal choice. Because even if you have parents that support it, even if you have friends that say you're the best or give a shit about you, you're going to have to show up every day, and that's going to have to come from you. And the reality is you could do this and wind up having a very tough life. But at the end of the day, if you do it for long enough, and I think I'm in this category, you could have the respect of your peers. mean, I think that, Red, I'm hoping that one of the things you guys get from my Twitch channel, from my streams, from maybe seeing some of my movies, and there's people who have been fans of my stuff for 15 years, and Blue is in here. I hope you guys really not only respect my talent, but respect me as a person for pursuing it so vehemently. Because at least I can sort of own that, and I can internalize that and say, okay, Jess, you may owe, I owe $400,000, some crazy shit. On the scale of life, like the finances, you can't take it with you. That's fucked up. I have to look at people, but I know people respect me. And so that I feel good about. And so where creativity, the curse of creativity is also constantly having to come up with new motivations to strive every day. And then getting through that day and then feeling good about it the next day so you can do it again. You know what I'm saying? Without even somebody prompting you. So anyway, that's a pretty long speech, so forgive me. I just get, it's an internal dialogue I run a lot, Red. So I'll snap out of that. We'll go to the chat room in a second. But it's a life of dreaming while awake, man. And even though it's the curse of creativity, we're calling it this, it's also the inverse side of this it's the blessing of creativity. Because I get to show a part of myself that most people can't. I get to know a part of myself that most people won't. And of themselves, not of me. Nobody really wants to know me, right? But that sounded kind of kinky. But it definitely is it's a charm to life. You know what I'm saying? I get to really be as real with myself as I possibly can be. It's the fucking, even though it's the worst, the curse of creativity is the fucking best. I'm blessed by this curse, It's a double-edged sword, and I wouldn't want it any other way. I mean, I get to really laugh. I get to really enjoy things, and I also get to really suffer because I allow myself those things because I want to be able to express those things. So anyway, all right, gotta take my brain for that long speech. Red, do you have anything to add to any of that? Or if not, we'll go to the chat room from there.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely understand like everything you're saying, especially from a career standpoint. And it seems like it's pretty clear that you've had a lot of, obstacles put in front of you and things like that. And just between me and you, man, I mean, I think that I think you're going to make it. I truly believe that. I think that your time's going to come, and I hope that you just keep a positive attitude about it. But I know guys that go through this kind of thing, and this will be something maybe not a lot of people even know about, but like with wrestling, and then people will say, oh, like WWE, yeah, like that kind of stuff, because I've actually worked a lot of independent wrestling shows, and these guys go through similar trials where they have the curse of creativity, because to make it in that business, not only do you have to be physically in shape and be able to do the moves and actually work in the ring, but you have the creativity of that you need to be this character, and you always need to be reinventing yourself. And that's even for the guys that are at the top, because the guys that work all these independent wrestling shows, they struggle financially. They got to work other jobs or do what they got to do to make ends meet, to have this dream come true. And some don't even make it, maybe because of circumstance or whatever else. But speaking of the guys at the top, I mean, Chris Jericho is one of those guys that he's making millions, and he's got a good life, and he's definitely got the finances in check, but he's still going in the business, and he's for sure constantly going through he needs to reinvent himself, because he can't be the same Chris Jericho he's been for 20 years. There's got to be a new and a different and a more exciting and new layer of Chris Jericho every time he performs or wherever he goes. So I think people in the wrestling business definitely go through a similar
Well, I think we all do.
trial.
Yeah, of course. I think that the anybody that expresses himself has this trial constantly. It's certainly not me. I mean, I've spent my life around creative people too, and that trial. And thank you for that. That trial is very evident, and I mean, we need it. We need creativity. We need expressive people. We need people to be much more in touch with who they are, you know? We do. Just give me just 1 second, okay? 1 second.
Sure.
Okay. So anyway, go to the chat room for a second. Puppy says you should only lose hope when you stop trying, and if you never make it, the path you choose to pursue becomes the fulfillment you seek. Jeskid basically never stop trying. Well, that's kind of my. I appreciate that. That's my credo. Is I just never quit. I never quit. But I'm gonna say something in this microphone that I do not like to say public, but I'll say it. There's not a single day in the last couple years or something that I don't want to go on Facebook and put the words I quit or whatever form of social media. I just want to. I want to so badly because it's so fucking hard, man. But I just don't because there's something in me that always gets back up. Always. You have to kill me. And put it on my gravestone or whatever, you know? You finally got me. But you couldn't until now. Or something like that. You know what I mean? That sounds morbid. But the point I'm trying to say is that, like, my drive to be myself and to live a true life and to be a giving and caring and expressive person can never be overcome by this circumstance of the zigs and zags of society. No, I refuse. I refuse. And I will pay the price for it, and I have in some ways, and I've had the blessings from it. So this is the curse of creativity. It is a mixed life. It is not an easy bag. It's not easy when you're unsuccessful in the financial sense. I'm creatively very successful. I just wish I had more resources to do bigger projects. The reason I do a Twitch stream now, it's not that it's easy. It's immediate. That's why I like it. Because it doesn't take me organizing 20 people for 2 years to watch film festivals try to screw people over and soak up their money and so that nobody shows up, and then you're pitching somebody that may or may not watch it. This medium was built for me. I'm one of the innovators of it. I was a YouTuber before YouTube existed. I'm a vlogger before that was even a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, so this is the life that I chose. I'm proud of it. You know? Do I regret it? Yeah, all the fucking time. That's just being intellectually honest. But in the end of the day, I don't know how to be anybody else. You know? So, going to the chat room, somebody said something that's a little off topic, but I'm going to address it. Apocalypse said, my dad died when we couldn't remember his blood type. As he died, he keeps assessing us to be positive, but it's hard without him. That's fucking hilarious. That's a joke, by the way, because it's be positive. That was a blood type. So I appreciate the break in the very serious mood. Because that's kind of my thing, right? Is I like to be very insightful and thoughtful, but then I have to always come back to humor. Humor's where I come from. Like, humor is the thing that gets me through all of this. Humor is the solution to the curse of creativity. You know what I'm saying? Humor is the answer. Because humor is how you deal with difficult, or at least how I deal with difficult situations. I laugh through them. It heals me. And the last part I'll talk about is it fills my cup. You know what I mean? And that's a big thing for an artist and for most people. But when you run out of creative energy, because it's one of the hardest energies to put out, you need to fill your cup. You need to step away, and maybe you need to see somebody else's creativity to fill your cup. Does it make sense? Like, you need to see some art, a piece of art, or listen to some piece of music, or have some friend go off on something, or just laugh. And then your cup gets filled up. Because if you always give to other people, sometimes I get off the stream and I'm exhausted. After I do these things, I'm exhausted because I give everything to them. And it seems very natural for me, and it is. But I'm expressing myself sometimes for fucking 5 hours and trying to make people happy for 5 hours. By the end of it, my cup is empty. And I got to have somebody else fill it. You know what I'm saying? So I go to my friends, or we laugh, or whatever, have a drink, or whatever the fuck. You know what I'm saying? It is, yeah, it's tiring. It's draining. That's another curse of creativity. But it is the best thing. So we've had basically almost an hour of talking about, and me, forgive me, Red, for going on and on about creativity. You're basically my logical foil on this one. I'm going to go to the chat room, and if you guys have any thought, Mr. Dosick said, creativity is extremely tiring, no matter how natural it is. It is. And Blue said, I count myself extremely lucky that my parents, especially my father, and my husband pushed me to be creative and to use my talent. Not much has come of it, but for the most part, I'm happy. So in that, my comment on that, Blue, is that a lot has come of it because you're happy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's very important that, like, if you have this desire that exceeds monetary, like something like passionate, like much like Jess has, you should pursue that, no matter how hard that path may be, no matter what anyone says about you. It's your life, and you never want to go through wondering, what if I would have took that chance, or what if I would have tried to pursue this thing I love. That's a lot worse of a feeling than trying and failing.
100%. And I there's a movie, right? This is years ago. I was at a panel for Rooster Teeth in Baltimore with I think Barbara was there. Now she's famous through them, and I don't think she had worked for them yet. And we were all asked what would be on our tombstones, right? And there's an old movie for you guys. It's old now. It's a science fiction movie. It's called Gattaca, right? It's really good. You should see it. It's super well done. And one of the characters didn't have the right genetics. It's all about genetic favoritism. But his brother did, or something like that. And so he would never get into this like space program to go to Mars. So he fakes his DNA by like using somebody else's blood and all kinds of shit. Anyway, his brother he's always been competing with his brother, and they would always swim out to a certain part of the ocean to see who could swim farther. And he could never beat his brother. He'd always have to turn back because he was weaker than his brother genetically. Like he was like the runt of the litter kind of thing. And there was a line in it. Towards the end, they race one more time, and his brother has to starts drowning, the more superior one, and he saves his brother. And he says, Vincent, what's the name of the runt guy, he's like, how are you doing this? Like, how'd you do this? And he says, I love this quote. He says, because I never saved anything for the swim back. And I love that. Like, the guy was just willing to die to do what he wanted to do. That's so fucking cool. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying be irresponsible about it. It's more a metaphor. But I think that's kind of what it, if you want to live a financially or purely creative life, that's what it takes. But on the positive side of just being a normal person, you have to be creative in some way. You have to have an outlet. It'll make you happier. It's therapeutic. It's beautiful. You know, like I remember there's one woman I talked to years ago. I'm not going to mention her name, but she was going through a very difficult time with her husband, and she was a painter. So if you're out there and you're hearing this, forgive me, but I say this as it because I think it was a beautiful thing. And she wanted to paint. She hadn't painted in years, and we were talking all the time. This is when I was doing a lot of Jeskid TV stuff with these journals on video vlogs before YouTube, whatever, online. And she was a fan of it, and we used to talk. And I used to just constantly encourage her to paint because I could tell that she wanted to do it. And through that painting of these things, she found the courage to paint again and then to leave her abusive husband. Because it filled her cup so much to do her thing that it overcame an adverse, awful situation. And she went on to be, I think, a much happier woman who painted like tons of shit because it brought her happiness. And so if it's from a starting point, that's the blessing of creativity, right? If you do something that's positive, that allows you to feel more connected to the world, the universe, yourself, sometimes from that can be the basis of amazing things. So that's kind of why I do it all the time, because I feel like being a little moving target, I get bored of everything. I'm bored of everything in 2 seconds. But I don't really bore of doing this because I keep spinning it. So it's never boring. It's always different. So anyway, I don't know what I said. So somebody in the chat room says, what kind of creativity are we talking about? Is it creativity applied to logic or is it not? I'm not going to define it for you. You can just contribute what you want. You asked, the same person asked before, can I bring some perspective from a non-creative environment? Of course. Of course. Listen, I've lived a very logical life too because I'm in the world, and I've had many friends who've been programmers and accountants, and my brother's a programmer. Like, you know what I'm saying? And has found his creative passion, what he does too. So it's everybody's welcome. And if anybody wants to join the conversation, we're going to do the next 20, 30 minutes. There's go to the Discord and then go into the voice chat, and I will drag you one by one into here, and just be respectful and well behaved, and you'll be able to stick around. So tonight's this conversation is the curse of creativity. It's a very negative thing, but it's a blessing and a curse, double-edged sword. So yeah, that's where that is.
I think we can find both positive and negative things to say about it, because I mean, it's like anything else in life. There's always a good and bad side of it.
Right. I love it, but I'm afflicted. Saying I'm really afflicted. I'm gonna bring two people from the chat room in here, Johnny Button and Plastic, who's Steve, and I don't know Johnny's real name. I assume we're gonna call him Johnny. I'm gonna bring him in now. It's one at a time. Okay. We have they're not in the room. I messed that up.
You missed.
I did.
I can drag them.
I got it. You've been dragged in. What's up, boys? How are you?
Good.
Afternoon. Okay, so we have Johnny and Steve, right? How are you, Johnny?
Good.
I'm glad. So, Johnny, what do you have to add to this conversation, my friend? What are your creative outlets, and what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, creativity is epic.
That's a big statement. Yes. What about it is epic? Is it like is it epic win? Is it epic fail? What's the word that goes with that?
Think of epic. I'm not epic. Think of creativity as a tool.
Interesting.
Like, it depends how you use it, because if Shakespeare and Mozart, like people like that, used it for not wrong, but like incorrectly, they would never become as famous as they are now.
That's true, but so is the reward for Shakespeare and Mozart, is the reward the fame for what they did? For them?
I think it was the passion.
Interesting. So you feel like the reward was the reward into itself, or at least part of it, for them?
Because I'm pretty sure, I forget who it was, I think it was Mozart, who devoted the entire life to music.
And he's a good example, because he's someone, we talked about it before, somebody has to one-up themselves constantly. Right? He had to dig so deep into himself that it caused him to go deaf. Has anybody here seen Star is Born? It's very depressing. It's very good, though.
I actually saw it.
So you saw it. Steve, you have to speak up a little bit. I'm going to have to raise you a bit here, which I can do too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Somebody raise you up a little bit. So the Star is Born, one of the things in it, and I'm not spoiling it beyond, because you find out right away, is that the lead singer is going deaf, kind of like Beethoven did. And he's still pushing himself to sing, because I think he's in a way trapped by his own success. He's also, the curse of creativity definitely applies to that character, because he's nearing the end of his journey and another star is being born right at his side. So that's fascinating to me. So for you, Johnny, because you're here, what are your creative outlets? What do you like to do?
Well, I guess music.
Music.
I mean,
okay, cool.
I listen to music, not doing it, but.
Well, is there something you like to do? Do you like to draw? Do you like to act? Do you like to paint? Do you find yourself creative in your humor, in the way you play games?
Definitely humor and games, yeah. I just try to like make the fun out of anything, even doing homework.
Ah, interesting. So you find creative ways to approach the things that you have to do.
Oh, hell yeah.
I mean, like anybody that says hell yeah. So you have a very healthy outlook on actually being productive. Is you spin it so that you don't get bored. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
13.
You're 13?
Yep.
Holy shit. I had no idea, ladies and gentlemen.
I thought he was older.
I did too. You sound like you're 19. I don't know if that's good or bad. So you're 13 years old, right? Do your parents encourage you to be creative?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever taken any classes in any sort of creative outlet?
I don't think so, no.
Do you play any sports?
Yeah, soccer.
Soccer, okay. Do you feel like there's a lot of creativity in playing soccer?
Oh, 100%. Especially with the skill moves.
So you feel like DQ
kind of like
people? Okay, sorry.
It's kind of like Reddit Lucio, you know? Like, you could play him as a healer, but the inspiration is DPS.
So Lucio is a character in a video game that I play as well. And it's a big joke in this thing because I've played it for literally 1,000 hours that I could have been.
He's got 1,000 hours on.
I've literally played this one character in this video game for 1,000 hours. So some people could say that I'm not being creative because I'm wasting my time on a video game. But I'd say you should watch the episode of this thing, the Jeskidding show called The Art of Procrastination, to realize that I was just storing it up for something else. So,
or you're just the embodiment of insanity.
Yeah, well, that's obvious. Take one look at this, and this guy. There's something wrong with him, right? So, and if not for this stream or the movies that I create, I'd probably be in some institution. With no disrespect to those people in those institutions, and maybe I could do like a switcheroo where they came and did the show for a day, and you guys probably wouldn't even notice. I'm just going to leave that and let it sit and see what the reaction to it is. It's like, in that moment, my creative brain was trying to find a way to make that funny. And in the middle of it, I started to realize how horribly offensive it was. And so I had a choice.
Let the pot stew.
Yeah, I was at a crossroads, a creative crossroads. And I made a choice. I chose to go deeper, to where no mentally ill man has ever been. And now I revisit the topic. And now I'm realizing it's really not that much, it's not that funny. So now the self-doubt is creeping in. So now I have to one-up it and keep going. So this is the curse of being creative, this is the game you play with yourself all day long. I'm boring myself. Steve, tell me about your creative outlets, my dude. Welcome, Steve. Former Air Force pilot, right?
Not even.
You're Air Force?
Yeah. That was a dream at one point.
So you were going to be a pilot. Things did not go your way. I'm going to tell your story really quickly. You had to leave because you got disabled from being in the service. You've dealt with some adversity here and there. And now you do a stream where you paint and work on models of toys and things that you like as a creative outlet. And I'm sure other things. Am I missing things? How does that make you feel to be creative with those things and other things that you do and experience other people's creativity? And somebody in the chat room said, how can I be less creative? I don't know. That was a pretty creative question to ask, so I can't tell you how to lessen that. Steve, please tell me.
Well, as far as like the creativity goes, this is more of a healing method for me. I have social anxiety disorder. That's one of the things. So it's hard for me to make friends out in the real world, and I tend to have trouble focusing on important things. So lately, I've taken upon myself to branch out in painting, the D&D miniatures and building models and customizing models, and here recently restoring old Hot Wheels cars, which is something I saw on YouTube, and I figured, hey, why not? I'll give it a try. But it's a way of healing for me because I can focus on a singular thing that's directly in front of me and not have to worry about any of the other stuff that's around me, like that bothers me. Triggering topics or whatnot, name something. So I can put all that crap aside and focus on this little plastic guy right in front of me for,
and
8 to 10 hours straight.
Does it allow you to like live in that? Like you live in that space, right?
It does.
It's like a new house in a way, a mental house for you is that little thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I feel that way too.
Because it's not so much like the actual physical creation of something, but also while I'm making this little plastic robot in my head, I'm also living out a completely alternate lifestyle or universe while I'm building this guy. I'm coming up with a backstory for him. Why does he have half an arm, or why does he have this bullet hole in his shoulder? It's like, because up in my head I'm figuring all these things out, so it's kind of soothing to create physically and mentally all at the same time.
That's awesome.
It's
awesome.
Multitasking.
It's awesome. So first of all, everybody, Redneck Rebel and Plastic Savior here both stream, so he streams those. So we'll David, if you wouldn't mind putting a shout out to them in the chat room when you have a chance. Then they're both fun to watch, and also that's amazing. See, that's what's cool about what you just did, is that that was a very creative moment for you because you shared a part of yourself that gave me an insight into what you do that allows me to see it if I ever come across it, which I do. I talk myself into a corner there. I feel like an asshole.
That's all right.
No, but when I have seen it and when I see it in the future, I'll be able to experience it in a different way. You know what I'm saying? Because you shared a part of yourself. And that's really what this is creativity is like sharing a part of yourself that sometimes doesn't make any sense. But somehow in sharing it makes it all make sense.
It's also allowed me to, because of the social anxiety, I've actually opened up and met other people through Twitch
Right.
in the creative community who also paint D&D miniatures, who also build, these robot models and whatnot. So I've actually been able to branch out via the internet, whereas trying to go out in the real world is still a hurdle. I'm trying to
I understand.
make over or leap over, I guess you can say. But yeah, it's working.
I love it. I mean, much like that woman who I described before with the painting, who's amazing, this could be a bridge for you. The curse of creativity for you is the ultimate blessing because it's the way you will access a part of yourself that got lost. Because Steve has told me before, he said with the chat room, he has PTSD from things that happened to him and he's been through some terrible stuff. So for you, this is phenomenal, you're using it as
according to your
tool.
Title, with your title of the podcast, The Curse of Creativity.
Right.
The curse that I experience is that I'm too creative. So I've got models, I've got miniatures that I paint. I'm doing the Hot Wheels cars. I also do traditional art. I like to draw. I have got literally right now at this moment, I've got 6 projects that I'm doing simultaneously. So that's the curse for me.
Well, the curse is you just want to do it all the time, right? I mean,
exactly. If I had 6 arms and 3 heads,
we're in a very different place, and that's totally cool. I feel the same way. I think a lot of creative people will agree with that. My mom, me, actors I know. The curse is you want to do it all the time, and you can't because you get tired, you get frustrated, you get blocked.
Yes.
For me, because I had to once you go make a career of it, then the other voice that comes in is nobody's gonna care. That's one that comes in. Nobody's gonna care. Or nobody's going to pay me. Or and the tragic side is if I just stop doing this, will anybody notice? And that's a very, very, very hard pill to swallow when you get there sometimes. But you bounce out of it, you know what I'm saying? Because it comes in waves, right? Living this creative life. It's like the deeper you go, the more wonderful it is, the more challenging it is. Because it becomes like it's a curse, dude. It's a fucking curse.
Yes,
but it's a blessing, and it's beautiful, and it's ugly, but it's real. You know what I'm saying? It's real, and it's deep. And I go back to, again, I said the person working hard for a living probably looks at that convoluted paragraph that I just put together and said, fuck you, I work for a living. And they just don't understand. Yeah. And I've had family members who always looked at me with disdain. That's another thing. If you have a creative life, like you choose it as a profession, in your case, people respect it because they see it helping you. But there's others, when you do it as a career, they look at you as irresponsible. And that's rough. I mean, that one hand, they think you're taking too many risks on what you're doing. You're throwing your life away, or you're being self-indulgent. And then they go to the movies. And they say, oh, did you see that good movie? Or did you hear that good song? And I'm like, don't you fucking realize that thing that you just enjoyed is the same thing that I do?
Yeah.
And that somebody had to take the same chances that I'm taking to do that thing? But they see you in a different light. They're like, oh, that's somebody else. That's a successful person. You know what I'm saying? And that's where creativity starts to go wrong, right? This is the curse of it. Because it gets valued by success. You know? And that's the furthest from the truth if something's good, or something's expressive, or something's new, or something's different, or something innovative, or somebody's smart or not smart, is to value that by financial success. Because that's a machine that has all kinds of mechanisms in it, and all kinds of who you knows, and this happened, and you know, remember I'm not saying anything mean about the guy. I've met the guy, but the guy who sang Chocolate Rain.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Very nice guy. Met him at the Webby Awards. I won this big award next to him for Drawn by Pain. And that guy was like breathing on camera, and his video just took off. And I'm not judging his talent, not saying anything, but he's just famous, and he's got opportunity because he's famous. So how does a creative person who's killing themselves for many years on their craft see that and say, well, how does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm not saying the guy doesn't have talent, didn't work on his singing, but the level of difference of work is astounding. So when you start placing financial success or opportunity on, I'll tell you another curse of creativity in a second, and then we'll get back to you guys, on how society has adopted it for business reasons, you're misleading yourself to the truth of what the actual good shit is. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. Just a shout out to Chapman. What's up, Ra? What's up, Narwhal? What's up, Heck? How are you guys? You know, rank ladder. Exact. Fuck you. Somebody made a good in-game joke. How dare you? You're here too, you bastard. So that's aside. For those listening, just disregard that last sentence. Yeah, that's off topic. That's what they call that shit. So, you know, anyway, let's go back to you guys, because this is a very, very deep. True happiness is just to be happy, somebody said. That makes no sense. There's no such thing as happiness. We did a whole podcast on that. Where were you?
Touch base on that part where,
Please.
you brought in the whole financial aspect of it.
Yes.
I actually had a small discussion with somebody. I told them about that, I'm a streamer on Twitch, and what I do is creative. I build models and I paint miniatures and various whatnot. And they're like, well, how much do you get paid to do that?
Yep. It's always the first question.
Honestly?
Always the first question.
Honestly, right now, nothing. They're like, well, that sounds like a waste of time. It's like, no, it's not. Personally, I freaking love it. I don't care. I mean, I could care less if I ever see a nickel. I'm having fun. I'm meeting people, and I'm creating some awesome shit.
That's awesome, dude. You have the mindset that people in my shoes envy. I love to be around people like you and Redneck here, who's streaming and it's fresh and it's new.
Yeah.
Like I try to help people like you guys, or David, who's now in the room. Why do I help you? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I'm a giving guy, and you guys are giving people too. That's obvious. But why? If I'm so much more crafted, more seasoned, I've done it for so why? Because I want you to remind me of how I felt when I first started, so that all the thoughts of all the people who have passed me up and all this nonsense and the chocolate rain-ish things, with respect to that guy, it has nothing to do with him, but just what it represents, don't play too big a part of my head, and I can get back to looking at the camera and being like, I'm going to take over the world. I'm going to say something that's different. I'm going to entertain somebody's day. If I can get back to that place, I can take over the world, because that's the place of purity, right?
Yeah.
So that's filling my cup. So Redneck, like, why would I help you with that recent thing? A, I love to see people do well. But B, I want to be inspired by you. You know what I'm saying? But I don't want you to pass me, because that would kill me.
Yeah.
I can't watch
I mean,
that.
don't get me wrong. I'd love to make money off of building models. I
Yeah.
mean, if I could get paid playing with plastic toys, fuck, I'll do it.
I hope you do, and I really love the fact that you come in here and you talk, because you have no fear of it. And even though you may, like the first time you did it, you said you were very nervous, but you're being creative right now, because you're connecting to people. There's 25 people in here. It's not 2,500. It's not, but it's not 2. We're having a cool conversation. We're learning from each other. We're gaining inspiration from each other. Mike, I will bring you in a second. David, did you have anything to add to this?
Sure. I think the one thing that I would say is that, you know how you say, okay, I look at you guys for that inspiration of when you're first starting and all that. I think you have it already. Like, you do it every day. And I mean, yeah, maybe the growth of the stream and the things you've done hasn't been maybe as fast as you've seen it, but you're still, you still have that drive and you're doing it. I think it's just, whenever I see you sometimes and I hear you talk, the only thing that makes me sad is that you don't see the success that you have for yourself.
Well, I can explain that. Why? Because at some point, that success doesn't continuously give me the resources I need to keep doing it. At some point, if this doesn't work, it'll go from 5 streams a week to 2 as I work some job that asks me to do 80-hour weeks.
Yeah.
And
I understand.
I will be
I
robbed
understand.
of my ability to continue. And I'm thrilled that you're here, that Redneck, that Mike, Johnny, 13-year-old kid, people in the chat room, random people I don't know. I'm fucking thrilled that you're here. But it's not enough. And I've played to the small crowd for too many years. I love the small crowd because it's intimate. But I want my moment in the sun.
I think your time will come, because what I'm saying is the reason why I'm saying all that is because you have it, right? Like, you have it. I mean, a lot of people, I guess, don't know my background story, and it doesn't really matter, right? But I mean, I've had a lot of adversities. Like, I should be somewhere else right now. Do you know what I mean? In the sense, I could be. I'm talking professionally and geographically. Basically, I should be somewhere else. Almost like my universe should be something else. But anyways, that doesn't matter in the sense that it hasn't changed what I have or who I am.
I agree.
And
I agree with
it's
you
the same thing with you. You have all the skills and you have everything that it takes. It's just that your time hasn't come.
Correct. It hasn't.
But I think it will. I think it will in one way or another. And hey, it could be that maybe you might have to say, I hope not, but let's just say it could be that you have to stream 3 days a week or 2 days a week and do this other thing. But that doesn't mean that that's always going to be the case, right? Because you're always going to keep trying, right? I mean, I've never pegged you as a guy that gives up. I mean, you play Lucy all the time, so you don't give up.
I'm a masochist for a video game character.
Me too.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for validating me. Look, I don't know where it goes, but if I was to say creatively, if I died tomorrow, I mean, it happens. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, hit by a car, and there's moments in life where I can recall where I almost died. And like, they were weird freak moments. Like, somebody pulled me back and a bus went by me. That was like that moment that it could have been death. You know what I'm saying? So if I died tomorrow, which I have no plan on doing, I'm cool with the life that I've led already, because I gave everything I had, and I know I've had an impact. That's it. There ain't nothing else. I've made people happy. I'm sure I've made 1 or 2 sad, possible. I've inspired people. There's people who have gotten married because of me. One of them was in the chat room before. I'm not saying I brought those 2 people together from a film that I made.
There may not be 1 or 2 illegitimate children roaming around the world right now.
Maybe. So, I don't fucking know. It's a little Jeskid. Came for a reason. What? So, but, I definitely, like, I did my best, and that's it. And there are people who didn't kill themselves because of me, because of some video that I made. I know that. And probably many. There are people that became filmmakers because they saw me doing it. There are people that saw me not quit and then went on to not quit themselves and became either famous or happy. Right? This is a long fucking list. And I'm very proud of this. I mean, if you
think that's a really important angle that you're taking.
Well, it's a fact. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Because that's something you really need to look at, is that, don't think so much about like what hasn't happened. Just look and see what you've done already, and then just live vicariously through that.
Well, I mean, I'm proud of that. Look, there's pride in it, but I'm still fucking here. That's only if I died tomorrow, which ain't gonna happen. Because death and me, that he's scared of me.
Yeah.
So, but I just
do know karate.
I do, actually. But I have a lot more. I have a lot more to give. And I know that there's no gold at the end of the rainbow. Is that what fucking gold is? I want to know what the gold is. Remember the old video? But there's no gold waiting for me there. I know that when I get to my goal of being sort of more of a prolific personality. I know that because I've watched other people take that road, and I'm smart enough to look at them and be like, there's nothing there. They have 1 billion views and they're fucking miserable. You know what I'm saying? And thank you for that, Jeff.
Yeah. Look at the Logan brothers.
Dude, there's plenty. But even people you think are happy, there's a lot of problems that come with that success. Because you get trapped
They've got so
by
many
it.
views, but they're like universally hated right now.
No, thank you. I'd rather just be me. But what I'm trying to say is like, so I know that there's no pot of gold, but I just want to have said to myself that I did it. It's kind of like when I was a kid. I wanted to be a filmmaker when I was 5 years old. I wanted to be George Lucas. Now I don't want to be George Lucas, but I did when he was that thing. 5 years old. Wanted to make the films. I didn't want to be in them. I wanted to make them. Zigzag, this happened. Then when I got into karate, I had a goal. I wanted to be really good at karate. I wanted to get my black belt. I got my black belt in karate. Okay. And I never tested again for 20 years. Then there were these big full contact tournaments. I said, I want to fight in one of those tournaments. I fought in the tournament. Then I said, I want to win those tournaments. I won a bunch of them. So that's important to me to achieve my goal. And my goal is to have a successful thing. You know what I'm saying? I feel like creativity is a curse because I haven't gotten my goal. But I understand, too, that life is a journey. And the goal doesn't matter. The journey matters. And I can process that, but I can't live the journey without aiming for the goal. And so, because the goal has to be there or the fucking journey wouldn't exist. So I have to keep striving for it, and I get upset by it because it impacts me financially and it impacts everything around me and choices that I make. And I just want to give, dude. I want to do really cool shit, dude. I want to make films and have them on fucking Twitch and YouTube films again. I've done many of those, but I want to do them again. But I don't want to have 20 people who are not getting paid that I have to beg to show up sometimes. That's too hard. That's why I've turned to this and all these cameras and this. You know, this is fucking. There's $10,000-$15,000 of investment here just in this that I want to make this work. I want to have the best, coolest fucking Twitch stream there is. I want to be like, yo, forget this top guy, forget this guy. You want a fucking real motherfucker? Come to that guy's channel. That guy's gonna make you laugh and he's gonna be real, as much as he possibly can be. That's what I want. And if I have a tenth of their numbers,
coconut oil.
Obviously, is that real? Is that a lubricant? What are we talking about? What's happening?
What, coconut oil?
I don't know.
Come on. Yeah.
I don't know what to do
Man,
with
you
that. Don't tell me about your
coconut
oils.
oil.
Listen, okay? Let's see your personal business. You're being too creative.
No.
You're taking fucking liberties.
You need the coconut oil.
I don't need it. Trust me. I'm
It'll
self-lubricating.
change your life, my friend.
Shut up. Right. So, all right, we got Mike Dosick here. Let's go to Mike. Mike, how are you? You're a creative person. You're trying to live a life of creativity. You're hitting some hurdles, as everyone does. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
But that's, I made a video about how are you. It's a stupid fucking question because everybody says the same canned answer. I'm glad to have you here, Mike. I hope you're in good spirits, and even if you're not in good spirits, so what? You're here. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So
I'm here, people.
So Mike is a photographer. Mike is an artist. Mike is a person trying to find ways to express himself. Mike, I can keep describing you if you like, or you can describe yourself, or you can tell me what's on your mind.
I mean, I just always considered myself an artist because I've dabbled in so many different mediums, and I like experimenting in other mediums as well. So it's just
Maybe
always.
he's not here.
What? I'm sorry, what?
I'm saying maybe he's not here.
Who's not here?
Mike. I mean, I'm saying he's here in the Discord, but he's probably away from his keyboard.
No, you just can't hear him. He's speaking.
Is he?
Yeah, he's speaking. Don't worry about it. We're good. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh yeah.
Give me a goddamn heart attack.
See that? This is the creative life. Poor Mike. Right? He's speaking his heart out. He's expressing himself, and somebody's like, I can't hear you.
And then
Poor
Bubba's
Mike,
gotta
man.
come and be like,
It's a technological failure. He must have muted you. I don't know what. So
Gosh dang.
please continue.
No, it's just like I've always just considered myself an artist and dabbled in so many different mediums. So I've always enjoyed being creative, and it's interesting because I feel like going back to the curse of creativity, I feel like it opens one up to so many different viewpoints and thoughts and perspectives. It gets overwhelming.
Right.
And I
That's
feel like
true.
that's something I'm dealing with right now. It's like it's so many.
Well, look, like to make creative choices is scary because you're holding a standard up that's sometimes unachievable for yourself. So then you become this self-defeatist ping pong up in your fucking brain. And that's a very difficult moment to be in. And so the only ways to deal with that is to do it enough that your brain learns how to cut down some of those expectations at the moments where you need to, let go of some things where you need to, so you can achieve the best thing you think, to be more organic about it. But that takes years of practice in doing it. The other thing you and thinking about you, and thinking about myself and anybody else, one of the hardest curses of creativity is that you open yourself up for massive fucking rejection. Massive.
Oh my God, yes.
And that is not easy. And those that think that it is, you usually are not very creative. And here's the curse. I'm going to give you the rub. You ready for the rub? And I don't mean that in a weird way. Maybe I do. Coconut
I think
oil.
you do, but
a
please
little
continue.
bit. I mean, I just want
beat me
to
to it.
let's give a shout out to Heck and Zane and all these new people and Jack. I really appreciate you for being here and just listening to my bullshit. They're in my Twitch stream. This will be live later in different places, so I don't respond quickly. But I want to let you know I see you and I'm glad you're here with me. So here's the rub for creative people, and this is why it's so hard, is that to create something great requires you to be vulnerable. It's required, because to be vulnerable, you're tapped into yourself, and you're exposing a part of yourself that's very raw and very real, right? That's the best form of creativity, when you're really in touch with that part of your brain. But to put it into the world, you have to be very thick-skinned, or so everybody tells you. You just have to grow a thick skin. But you can't be both at the same moment. So those people who are seem like they're the most thick-skinned are usually the most fucking boring. Or do the most canned things. Because they become like a used car salesman. Because they're just salesmen. And there's nothing, I'm saying they're not creative too. It's a different kind of creativity. But there's not this realness, this rawness to it. And those are the most... Yeah, so what do you do as an artist? Well, you're trapped. And you have to figure out a way to have different modes. And this, Mike, you'll learn this through your life. And there'll be times where you just have to go work at some bullshit job for years. And then get out of it and get back to what you want. If you want to have a creative life, this is more advice at this time. Sometimes you got to step away from it. Sometimes you just got to live a real life that other people live. By just going to fucking work. And some of that time will be to refill your creative cup, because your cup may be actually empty and you may not want to deal with rejection for 2 or 3 years. And if there's something so important to you, a passion that's so deep that you must get back to it, it'll come back. It'll force you to come back. You won't have a choice. It'll take you over. It happened to me. When I moved back from LA, I was destroyed. I was like 31. Went out to LA, lived there 6 years, went to best film school in the country, got out, nobody gave a shit. Nobody would watch my films or read my scripts. I was invisible. So when I came home, I got a job for an internet company, and I bought a camera. I got enough money, I saved them enough, and I used to buy cameras. It was like $2,500. It was a lot of money for me. Bought a camera, and it sat in my apartment for a year. I didn't shoot more than one thing on it. I just looked at this thing, and I said, I'm going to shoot when I'm ready for it. And a year later, I sold it. Because I said, I'm done with this bullshit. I can't do this life. It's too hard. And it's not too hard in the, I can't make a living out of it. I just can't live a life of just not existing to the world. And that's what it was like back then. There was no internet. Didn't exist. And then I worked at an internet company, and so they were putting video online. It was before YouTube and before any of those things. I said, well, I have this movie. I made a feature film that no one had ever seen. So the creativity started to grow back in me. The little itch started to come back. And I cut the movie into 12 pieces, and I re-edited it, and I put the whole thing online. And boom, I was reborn for the next 15 years or whatever it's been. Jeskid TV, Draw My Pain, Status Kill, obviously Shades of Grey, IOU. These are big projects that I did. All the My Damn Channel stuff, all the scripts, Jeskid TV show, my Twitch stream. All of that was from that one moment. Somebody in the chat room said, we need a viewing stream sometime. Yeah, Andy, I'd like to do that. I thought about doing literally a 10-hour retrospect on some of my work.
Heck.
Like one movie after the other, after the other, after the other, and with commentary, with cast and crew. I've wanted to do it for a while. I just don't want to do it for 15, 20, 25 people. That moment will have 300. And they will all be half naked men with swords. like the movie 300.
See, now when you say swords, you got to be a little more specific.
Dicks. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm off topic.
There we go.
I'm off topic.
How much more specific can you get?
Yeah.
Coconut oil.
Yeah, I'm being overt about it, Mike. So we just got a good evening from Amsterdam from Nathan. Hello, Nathan. Welcome
Nice.
to the stream.
Yeah.
So we've had what's great about doing this, what I love the most about this, what the most raw thing about what I'm doing right now, before it gets to the point of 3,000, 4,000 people at a time, hopefully, is that I can meet and talk directly to people from Amsterdam. We have Yukio from the United Emirates. We have Zed from South Africa. You know, we have Redneck from Kentucky. We have Steve in Alaska. You know, we have women, men. We have people of all walks of life. Every kind of thing you could fucking be, I get to encounter, and that's awesome. So you talk about like the blessing of creativity. If I didn't start this Twitch stream, I wouldn't be able to have this connection and be able to express myself to so many unique people, and in turn have them express themselves back to me and, you know, fill my cup for the rest of my life. This is one of those truly unique moments in my life that I'm very, 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 very grateful for. I'm learning and I'm teaching and I'm living. It's quite beautiful. And my only fear and the curse of creativity is, will I be able to continue it? Will it bring up enough resources in so that this beautiful moment that we're all creating together can continue? And that's the curse for everybody who creates. Can I sustain the thing that I love? Look at that, the big speech. I always end with the big fucking speech. It's a big speech.
Every time.
And there's always silence right afterwards.
I know, right? Nobody wants to fucking say. How do I follow that shit? And so even like my friend here, Johnny, is 13 years old. And Mike here, Mike Dosick, who's now a photographer, he's shot some amazing pictures. Amazing. He's just too fucking hard on himself. But that's something he has to figure out.
That's just standard from all
standard creative
artists.
process. Look around. Get used
We
to
are
it.
our own
Embrace
worst
it.
critics.
Embrace it. Embrace the problem and go with it. Flow with the problem. But Mike has been watching my stuff online. And how old are you, Mike?
27.
Mike has been watching my stuff and listening to these words since he was 13. It's true.
Whoa.
Crazy. And Mike, when I would feel down from some video, right? Mike would send me him and another guy, Joe, who's another really great guy, really sort of these heartwarming messages to say, cheer up, in a way. And it was quite awesome and lovely because it basically did the very same thing to me, like with Redneck and watching Dave and the rest of you guys stream, was it filled up my cup a little bit. It made me think of how the world was when I was your age, or I was starting streaming, and that early passion, and that gave me a real gift because it gave me a little bit more wind in my sails to, you know, go through the curse of creativity and learn to enjoy it.